listeners. In this video, I'm going to be talking about Maiden of the Needle, Volume 1. This is one of my September TBR books, so this was one of my light novel pulls from the TBR game. And I just finished it. Love it. There were some bits of the writing style that maybe I would have changed a little bit or preferred to be different, but in general, I'm loving this. So from the back, Yui Noir was reincarnated into a noble family of tailors in another world. Retaining her memories of her previous life in Japan, her miserable childhood had just one source of comfort: the fairies she befriended by mending their clothes with her magic. Unfortunately, Yui's relative lack of skill in bless weaving, the art of enchanting fabric through her needlework, ultimately results in her being disowned by her family. But when she's taken in by a nobleman named Rodan Calistera? The first person to recognize her innate talents, her luck begins to turn around. So this is how I was thinking the whole time that I read it. This is if you take The Fiancé Chosen by the Ring, Sugar Apple Fairy Tale, and My Happy Marriage, and blend them all together, then you'll end up with Maiden of the Needle. So she loves her sewing. She's perfect at sewing. So her actual needlework is perfect. She knows how to craft and create things. But due to like the way she's raised, it's so interesting because there's a lot of different bits at play with like how her family worked. Part of it's also like because she's a reincarnated person, she had bits of trouble with the language, even though it seems, I guess, slightly weird to me, but she didn't speak much. She had trouble adapting to the new language of her new life because she had all of her knowledge from Japan. So she didn't talk much, and I think that impacted how she was taught and learned. Also, there was just neglect in general. Like her family was neglectful. And there's bits like she didn't understand that would work together. So she didn't really understand this whole thing of bless weaving. So when she was tried at it, she failed. And then they immediately wrote her off and neglected her even worse. They wouldn't feed her. She was mistreated. So again, this is the part that's like My Happy Marriage. Totally mistreat her and just are terrible. And this, of course, just caused her to think less about things, but also lacking in some more of the education. When she finally realizes what bless weaving is, she realizes that she could do it. She hadn't been, I guess, officially doing it, but she realizes that, yeah, she actually can do bless weaving. But she just never got that. And when she did realize she could do it, she didn't let her family know because she knew that they would just manipulate her and the situation. And so she just kept it a secret. Meanwhile, a couple of years down the road, she gets a job or signs a contract role. Her parents technically sell her off, if we're going to put it bluntly. Her parents sell her off to Rodan, or Rodin, or Rodin. I'm not really sure, because, again, I don't know how they're saying it here. It looks like the artist Rodin, so I would be like Rodin. In my head, I'm like, how am I supposed to be saying this name? And the last names are always weird, so Calistera. Anyway, she's sold off to him. And her official title is going to be like, I think, his intern or something. But once she gets there, he really sees the potential in her. And once her power is fully revealed to him, he then is like, there's more going on here than what they think. So one, he makes sure to feed her proper foods and everything. There's all these little bits. So she's so malnutrition. So he does take care of her. He, by the way, is a very handsome nobleman who her family doesn't respect because he's risen to that rank in the world that they live in. Where you fall on the nobility scale is based on your abilities. And so his ability is higher, so he's risen in rank. Whereas Yui's family their ability is going down, so they have lost a rank. So her dad kind of views him as an upstart noble, but of course he's more than willing to take his money in order to like get rid of Yui and just enjoy the money. But usually also just talks badly about him. But he is an attractive young noble, and no, it's not what you think. So he's an attractive young noble. He's in that whole society. He takes care of Yui. He makes sure that she's going to get like the materials, whatever it is that she needs in order to create things and whatever. But once he realizes her potential, he actually brings in another character who does become more of what you think. He actually invites who would be the former king to meet Yui. And obviously he's a noble because he's the former king, but there's a whole backstory about why he stepped down as being a king. His son is the current king, and yes, I know that's odd because yes, he agrees to be Yui's fiance, but there's all these little like bits that they have to do in order to get there, and also for any marriage to occur, because again, there's a whole contractual thing, there's a whole thing with Yui's family that they have to get through. There's just a lot going on. But let's talk about him in general. So it's Arjit, and I'm not going to say his last name right. Let me pull this out. So there's some gorgeous artwork inside. Flip that around. So that guy lounging there is the former king, Arjit Lomostometlo. I don't know. Some of the names were a little bit hard for me. Former king, when he arrives at Rodan's house, he, from how Yui describes him, just looks disheveled and a mess, and it drives her nuts, and she's immediately like, take off your clothes. But she's like, but not like that. She wants to make him a whole new wardrobe, so she immediately gets to work at recrafting his clothes so that it's something that fits him and doesn't look like that. And then their relationship kind of grows. He agrees to take her as his fiance. In part, this is to help protect Yui and set up the ability to deal with her family household and maybe change the way things are. He does like Yui, but it'll be interesting to see how their relationship develops, because he's like, don't worry about it. I will be your fiance. I'll agree to marry you and take care of you, but don't stress about anything else. And he's like, also, you can't have my kid. Like, they wouldn't have a claim on the throne, but you're welcome to have kids with somebody else, which was just a random thing, because I was also like, why would he tell her that? But I hope I'm not spoiling too much, but there's so much I want to like talk about here, because it goes into so much more. Then we get his whole past story. He has a huge past story about why he is no longer the king, and also like his relationship with his son's mom and how that ended. And then there's another one that's the huge part of the story and how that ended. And I don't know, there's so much going on. There's like the political castle intrigue. There's the mess with Yui's dad. There is this friendship / probable love story that's happening. There's another love story that's kind of off in the sidelines. There's another love story that's also there. There's a lot of love stories going on, but it's very nice. It was a quick read. Like, it's like just 200 pages, but it does have like pretty small print. But there's also a little like cute artwork on the side here of little fairies. And again, I like fairy stories, so this had very much that fairy tale line and the different fairies who I didn't get to mention, but they're also fantastic. So with Yui's ability to see the fairies, which was also part of why they have to like watch out for and protect her, because people who can see the fairies are actually pretty rare, and interacting with them, and it usually means they have higher power. But the ones that she can see, because she can see them, they can help her with her sewing and the blessed weaving so that it all like spins in together. The other factor that they have, which goes into the whole thing with her family and trying to rework the stuff with the family, is that her original family line got a monster to become like a blessed beast. And therefore the family, because they're sewers, they each have like their own little spider. And the spider helps to make the threads which they sew with. And I know that seems very intense and a little weird. But that's part of why they have to protect that line, is because the blessed beast could become a monster again and threaten the kingdom. So it's a whole thing that was actually very interesting. I think that's a lot that's packed into this very small book. But I loved the inserts of artwork. The artist that they have do this, who was Miho Takaoka, was a good artist. I enjoy their artwork immensely. And then the story itself is just, I think it's lovely. It's a good start. I can't wait to see how the relationships develop, where it goes from there. Is it going to go more toward Arjit's past? Is it going to focus more on the future? There's another fairy story that is directly connected to Arjit and the reason why he's not king. So, I don't know. It's all there. There's so much, but it's so good. I would definitely highly recommend this one. I'm so glad that I noticed it. Also, I think within a month or two, the manga is going to be released. And I'm like, is it this month or is it next month? Anyway, the manga's coming out. I want to check out the manga, see how the artwork compares to the original drawings for this, and see how they adapt the story to it. Is it a good adaptation? Is it weak? I'm going to be sticking with the light novels. There will be a second volume coming out as well, which I don't remember when, but I saw that and I was excited for it. And yes, would highly recommend Maiden of the Needle, especially if you like some of the stories that I've already mentioned. My Happy Marriage, Sugar Apple Fairy Tale, Maiden of the Needle, or Fiancé Chosen by the Ring. Any of those, I think you would enjoy Maiden of the Needle. The only problem that I've seen in some of the light novels I've been reading is the grammar. And I get that these are translated works, but I feel like you can't just take the translation. There should be an editor who's correcting some of the grammar when it comes to the English translation, because there was a lot in here that was just poor grammar, where like one of the quotes was like, me and Arena's blessed weaving or something, and I'm like, guys, this is rudimentary grammar. Like, would you say me working? Me work is good. No, my work is good. Like, put it to my. Or where they would have the I first in a line, like, I'm not going to say the names in here, but it was like, Donnie, and Claire went to the movies. And it's like, no, Donnie, Claire, and I went to the movies. Like, it's basic grammar editing that, I don't know if y'all are just taking the translation, because I can get where, you know, grammatically, if you're just following however it was in Japanese or whatever, maybe you're not great with grammar. Maybe you're good at translating the work, but you're not good at grammar. That's fine, but make sure that you have an editor who actually knows grammar that's correcting it. And it would be fine if it were done, like, so that's incorrect grammar, but it matches, like, the character. Like, the character has poor grammar, so it matches. That'd be fine, and that's not what I'm speaking of. This is the narrative of the story that should be proper grammar. And the one problem that I have with that is because if you have poor grammar in your writing, and people who are not well-versed in grammar are reading it, they're going to assume that that's proper grammar, and then the cycle continues, and it just sounds bad. It sounds bad, and it drives me crazy. I don't like it. I wish that especially, and I've especially seen it here, I've noticed that in a lot of more published works nowadays, editing is not up to par for me. But I think with the light novels, I've noticed it a lot more. And so I don't know if they have good editing beyond oh, this is translated, I'm a translator. I don't know if they're having editors above that, like, that do the next step. I don't know, but if they do, maybe hire better editors, or I don't know. Like, this is very, the stuff in here is elementary grammar. Like, people should be learning very young, and I get that schooling isn't the same and definitely not the same across the country. Depends on where you're raised. In my neck of the woods, this would not fly. Like, in our school system, you'd be knocked off a lot of points. You get the red circle. That's the one thing I noticed that I didn't like about this. Like, there were so many grammar mistakes that it was distracting me as a reader. Like, I would be going along fine, and then there would just be something that just hit. So, especially Yen Press, because I love a lot of your work, can you make sure there's an editor that is correcting the grammar for the translation? Because the stories are better than that, and the stories deserve better than that. And I don't know. But that's my only, like, a problem out of all of it. Because in general, I liked the story. I liked the voice. There were a few areas where we over-focused on stuff, and I'm like, oh, come on. Let's move on. But in general, I like this. I like the voice. I think it's good. I'm going to enjoy this series. I'm going to hope that the editing's better for the next volume. I'm going to move on. But I'm like, editing was part of, like, what I used to do and like to do, and so it sticks out. I see it a lot. I see the bad grammar. Sometimes I can let it fly. Sometimes it really sticks in my craw. This one, there were definitely a lot of mistakes that stuck in my craw. But other than that, I loved the story, love the characters, love the illustrations. I think it's good. I would still recommend it, and that's it. So for this video, I'll see you next time. Bye.